The year my father died in a car accident. Eric became the only light in my life. After 6 years of being together, we were about to step into marriage, but he asked me to give up the design project I had spent 2 years working on, to his beloved childhood friend. When I refused, he took my drafts and publicly accused me of plagiarizing her. Afterward, he explained, "Selena, I did it for your own good. Just endure it once more." But this time, I didn't want to endure it anymore. Chapter 1. I've lost count of how many times Eric's childhood sweetheart has come looking for me. Even though she came to ask me for a favor this time, she still carried that same arrogant attitude. "Selena, as long as you post a statement admitting that those works were plagiarized from me, I'll give Eric back to you." A sharp pain pierced my chest, and I couldn't say a word. He's my boyfriend, why does she get to give him to me? Seeing that I wasn't giving in, she smiled coldly. "You think you have some kind of background? What? Your sick mother can protect you? Or Eric? Believe it or not, this time he'll just make you issue that statement again." With that, she picked up her bag and walked away. She was driving the latest model of a luxury sports car, flashy, beautiful, and ridiculously expensive. But for people like her, such things were nothing more than toys. They could have as many as they wanted, from the moment they were born. After all, Eric and I also grew up together, but whenever his mother talked about us, she would only acknowledge that Lisa and Eric were childhood sweethearts, who had grown up side by side. As for me, I was nothing but a poor girl. My father had once been their family's driver. That was all. The height of our social classes had always stood like an unbridgeable wall between us. Chapter 2. But Eric, ironically, never seemed to care about that. The first time I met him, I was only 5 years old. My mother had always been in poor health. During the kindergarten summer break, my father had no choice but to take me along to work. I will never forget that day. My father wore a faded white undershirt, and the scorching sun beamed down on his dark forehead, glistening with sweat. Eric's mother sat inside the air-conditioned car. My father bent over beside the car window, almost pleading, asking if he could bring his little daughter along. Eric's mother adjusted Eric's little tie, glanced at me from the corner of her eye, and finally smiled faintly. "Fine, take her along then." I sat in the passenger seat, secretly studying the boy in the suit. He was 2 years older than me, but already looked like a little adult. Eric's mother never allowed us to play together. She was afraid I might be a bad influence on her son, but Eric would sneak away to find me. He brought me chocolates from abroad, and ice cream I had never even tasted before. That book-filled study of his became my favorite place in the world. It was cool, quiet, and full of delicious snacks. The books he read were ones I couldn't understand, but he always smiled and said, "Selena doesn't need to understand all this. If you do, you won't be happy anymore." I would nibble on my chips and ask him, "Then why do you have to understand it?" There was always a trace of sadness in his eyes, but he never wanted to let me feel it. He would take my greasy little hands, wipe them gently with tissues, and say, "Selena, when you turn a page, make sure your hands are clean." So I imitated his movements. And after that, I stopped eating snacks when we read. I spent many years in that study, and there, a seed for fashion design was quietly planted in my heart. Eric couldn't possibly not know how important this latest project was to me. If it were the old days, I would have confidently told Lisa that Eric would never do something like this. But now, I'm not so sure anymore. He has made me swallow too much humiliation. Chapter 3. It was past 9 at night when Eric finally came home, reeking of alcohol. The moment he stepped through the door, he pulled me into his arms. "Selena, I missed you so much." In that instant, my tears fell. It was because of that very sentence that I had once fallen hopelessly in love with him. When I was 17, my father's car crashed head-on into a truck. The truck overturned, crushing both him and the vehicle beneath its weight. Overnight, my entire world collapsed. To avoid responsibility, the truck driver claimed that my father had violated traffic rules. That stretch of road just happened to be a blind spot with no surveillance cameras. My mother fainted from the shock and was hospitalized. At 17, I had to handle everything on my own. Eric's family initially didn't want to get involved. But somehow, Eric persuaded them. Perhaps his mother only agreed to maintain her family's reputation. In the end, his family took charge of the matter. The driver was sentenced and fined. Eric's mother even invited reporters to film the entire process. She let me stay at their home for a while and gave us some money. But once the reporters were gone, her warmth disappeared too. When I said I wanted to go home to take care of my mother, she refused. She said, "The reporters just left, and you already want to move out? Do you think our family did this just for show?" After 2 days, I sneaked away when no one was watching. At the hospital, they were urging me to pay the bills. My mother's condition had worsened. I was terrified. My father was already gone, and I couldn't bear the thought of losing my mother too. I hid in the hospital garden, crying for a long time. The sky grew dark and heavy with clouds. And that's when Eric appeared. He was drenched in sweat from searching for me everywhere. But when he finally found me, all the words he had prepared vanished. He simply held me gently and said, "Selena, I missed you so much." That day, I cried in his arms for a long, long time. He whispered, "Selena, don't worry, I'll always be here." We didn't start dating until university. In my sophomore year, he was already working at the company. We hadn't seen each other for about 3 months. He came straight from the airport after a flight, dragging his suitcase behind him. And when he saw me, he hugged me tightly. "Selena, I missed you so much." And just like that, we were together. He was a wonderful boyfriend, considerate, attentive, gentle. But in the last 2 years, as we started talking about marriage, things began to change. His mother had never liked me. She preferred girls like Lisa, those from prestigious families, who matched their social standing. I knew Eric was struggling, caught between his mother and me, and in that company, his mother still held great power. Whenever I saw the exhaustion on his face, I kept telling myself, no matter how much his mother humiliates me, I'll endure it. I wanted to share his burden, even if just a little. We had been together for 6 years, 2,190 days, and I was getting tired. So tired that I began to question whether my choice all those years ago had ever been right. Was a man like Eric ever truly someone I could reach? Chapter 4. Drunk. Eric pinched the soft flesh at my waist. "Selena, you're not paying attention. What are you thinking about?" I massaged his temples gently. "Lisa came to see me today." He instantly sat up, panic flashing across his face. She didn't say anything, did she? She said if I post a statement admitting that I plagiarized her, she'll give you back to me." As I spoke, I watched his expression carefully. He didn't look shocked or indignant, not even angry. After a long silence, I truly felt like I couldn't hold on any longer. Then he said, "Selena, maybe you should just let Lisa have this one." He suddenly looked me in the eye, serious and calm. "Selena, listen to me. I've already talked with Lisa's family. My mom only wants to form an alliance with them for business reasons. If you help Lisa this once, her family has promised that you'll still get what's yours. It'll shut my mom up, and then we can get married." The more he spoke, the more excited he became. But my heart was freezing over. Bit by bit, it was always like this for the past 2 years. Every single time, I'd give in. But this time, I let out a cold laugh. "Eric, do you even understand what it means if I admit to plagiarism?" His face showed no concern. "I won't be able to stay in this industry anymore. I've spent 2 years preparing this work. Why should I be the one to take the blame after Lisa stole it?" He grabbed my hand. "Selena, calm down. You're still a newcomer in this field. You can't fight the Lisas of the world. You said you wanted to go far in this industry, but you have no background, and your talent isn't strong enough yet. Even if you struggle, what can you really achieve? When we get married, you can just stay home and learn etiquette from my mother. Wouldn't that be nice?" I cut him off sharply. "But my work did win an award. The biggest award in the entire industry, didn't it? You might think my efforts mean nothing, but they've been recognized." He shook his head. "Selena, admitting plagiarism is the best choice for you now. If you don't do it yourself, I'll resolve it with Lisa's family. And by then, whether you admit it or not won't even matter. Selena, I'm doing this for your own good. The man in front of me felt more and more like a stranger. Was this still my Eric? His mouth moved, but every word that came out grew colder, sharper. My chest tightened. Pain spread through every inch of me. He knew how much I'd endured for him. He knew how much I loved fashion design. Those nights we stayed up together, were they just sleepless nights to him? Chapter 5. Eric. Maybe if I seize this opportunity, your mother will finally let go of her prejudice. He interrupted me. Selena, even if you succeed this time, at best you'll just be an excellent fashion designer. Does the company lack designers? Fine. Say you manage to build your own brand, so what? Selena, we're getting married now. How many years would that take? Selena, you're just a small designer with no family background, no connections. You'll never beat Lisa. So that's how it was. For more than 20 years. He had never once truly respected me. I pulled my hand free from his grip. If I don't give in, does that mean we can't get married? He thought I was wavering. His eyes lit up with excitement. Selena, as long as you give in, I promise I'll convince my mom. And we'll get married by the end of this year. I let out a cold laugh. All right, Eric, then we're done. He froze, stunned. Selena, what did you say? I stood up. I said I won't give in. What's mine? I'll fight for it myself. Eric, I love you. But the version of me you want, I'll never allow myself to become that. For once, his expression darkened. Selena, don't joke with me. I didn't answer. I turned and went to the bedroom to pack my things. He was the one who said he wanted us to live closer. And that's why I'd moved in with him. I had been so happy back then. Who would have thought things would end in humiliation like this? He followed me into the bedroom. When he saw me packing, he finally realized I was serious. He snatched the clothes from my hands. Selena, if you leave here, where can you even go? Then, realizing how awful that sounded, he tried to fix it quickly. No, Selena, that's not what I meant. I stopped packing altogether. Eric, I'm serious. I'm exhausted. These past 2 years, you know how your mother's treated me, don't you? You know everything, yet all you ever say is to just endure it. I let out a bitter laugh. Ha, Eric, do you think I plan to cling to you for life? That I can't live without marrying you? In this unequal relationship, I've given too much, sacrificed too much. Why should I be the one to always compromise? He frowned. Selena, be rational. Even if you insist and manage to shine on your own, then what? Without support, how far do you think you can go? Those words cut straight through me. It was my fault too. All these years, I had compromised again and again, until their appetite for my obedience grew endless. I couldn't stay there another minute. Chapter 6. The organizers kept contacting me, asking me to give them a clear statement. When I opened the online comments, they were all insults, every single one of them. In the past few years, Lisa had risen to fame in the fashion industry. With her family's support, her name was already well established. She didn't even need to enter this competition, but she insisted on participating and deliberately used my design. Her intentions couldn't have been clearer. She was targeting me, even if I gave in this time. She would never be kind enough to give Eric back. All she wanted was to crush me, to press my face into the dirt and grind it in. I told the organizers that the design was absolutely mine, and I provided the timeline of my sketches as proof. Just then, I got a call from the hospital. My mother was in critical condition. I rushed there immediately. She had caught the flu, which turned into pneumonia. Her immune system was already weak, and this time her body couldn't hold up anymore. By the time I arrived, she was lying motionless in the hospital bed. In the drawer beside her bed, there were many little notes she had left behind. Each one had my name written on it. Selena. And lines like "Don't wrong yourself. Don't let yourself be treated unfairly." I crouched in the hospital hallway, burying my head in my arms and sobbing until my chest hurt. In the end, my mother still left me. All these years, She had always felt guilty, felt that being with Eric was beneath me, that I was always wronging myself. She knew how Eric's mother treated me. Late at night, she used to talk with me, telling me to find someone who truly loved me. That's enough, she'd say. It doesn't matter how rich his family is, as long as he loves you. Don't wrong yourself. But all these years, I had done nothing but wrong myself. My phone rang suddenly. It was my assistant. Selena, have you seen the news? Eric and Lisa just held a press conference. My hands trembled as I pulled up the video. Eric and Lisa were sitting side by side, announcing that Lisa was the true creator of the design. They even presented the early drafts. But those were all my sketches. Some of them were ones I had thrown away. The online comments grew even more vicious. Even Selena's boyfriend confirmed she plagiarized. Looks like it's real. Boyfriend? Did Eric's family ever acknowledge her? Probably self-proclaimed. Of course Eric will marry Lisa, that's an alliance of equals. Can people like Selena stop ruining the industry? One rotten apple spoils the barrel. Eric had really done it. Whether I gave in or not, I had already lost. My phone buzzed again. A message from him. Did you see the news? Just 5 cold words, but they pierced straight into my heart. A searing pain flooded through my entire body. I looked up at the sterile white wall of the hospital corridor. Tears spilled uncontrollably. Then everything went dark before my eyes. Disappointment builds slowly, one layer over another, until it crushes you completely. It was my fault for letting him make me suffer like this. Eric turned out to be the cruelest one of all, even crueler than his mother. He had calculated it all. He knew I loved him too much to leave. And that's why he dared to hurt me without restraint. But what he didn't know was this. If I truly decide to let go, then none of this, none of it, will matter anymore. Chapter 7. It didn't surprise me that Eric's mother wanted to meet me alone. She always carried that air of superiority, calm, elegant, and untouchable. She lifted her coffee cup gracefully and took a slow sip. I have a friend, she began. A professor at a fashion institute abroad. He really likes your designs. The decision is yours. I didn't understand her at all. Why did she despise me so much, yet still offer me this kind of opportunity? She could have easily dismissed me altogether. I don't understand, I said. She turned to look out the window. Eric can't be relied on. Never depend on a man without his father. I still built this company alone and raised him by myself. Eric's been spoiled by me. Eric was born into this kind of family. Marriage alliances are the best option for him. You two don't belong to the same class. Selena, do you think he'd ever give up everything we've built for him? He'll only ever ask you to compromise. Haven't you realized that yet? When our eyes met, I finally saw the cold ruthlessness in hers. A woman who could build an empire alone. Her strength didn't come from efficiency alone, but from pure ferocity. I accepted her offer. Maybe, to Eric's mother, it was nothing more than charity, but I didn't care. It was the biggest opportunity one could ever grasp. Chapter 8. While I was preparing the paperwork to study abroad, Eric still thought I was just throwing a tantrum. He allowed the media to run reports about his close relationship with Lisa. Online, people started speculating that their families were about to form a powerful alliance. It seemed that the story of the ugly duckling, my story, was finally coming to an end. On the plane, as I looked at those headlines, I couldn't help but feel both bitter and amused. Years of love don't fade just because you decide they should. But the man I had lived beside for so many years had chosen the cruelest way imaginable to break me down. Had I simply misjudged him all along? Or had I never really known him at all? Eric's mother had been right. We came from 2 different worlds. I couldn't expect him to give anything up for me, even if he truly did. I'd probably feel guilty for it. So in the end, we were never meant to be together. Time and people, neither of them had ever been on our side. A week after I settled in abroad, Eric finally realized that I had already left. Countless calls and messages came flooding in. Selena, did you really leave? Did you give me up for your career? Selena, how could you? And when none of those reached me, his tone softened. Selena, please come back. I was wrong. I shouldn't have said those things. I just wanted you to compromise. That's all. Selena, I grew tired of it all, so I blocked every number. Every account, all of it. And from there, I started over. Chapter 9. 3 years later, under my mentor's guidance, I founded my own fashion brand. In just 2.5 short years, I brought it onto the international stage. Even my mentor found it hard to believe. But to me, it wasn't a coincidence, it was inevitable. Every second of my effort had built up to this. I was invited to return to my home country to participate in a fashion show. Among the brands showing on the runway was also the one owned by Eric's family. I wasn't afraid to face him. Competing with them, that was fine. After all, he once said that a designer like me, without a family background, relying only on my talent, would never make it far. My mentor came back to the country with me. He was originally Chinese, but his relationship with his family had been strained since childhood. They had sent him abroad alone at the age of 9. And in the following 40 years, he had returned home only a handful of times. The day I saw Eric again, I was standing under the bright lights of the runway, taking my bow after presenting my collection. He was sitting in the audience. From that perfect angle, I could clearly see the panic in his eyes. If Lisa hadn't been beside him holding him back, he probably would have stormed up onto the stage to confront me. I looked around at the familiar scene, the same place as 3 years ago. But this time, I was different. 3 years later, I had finally reached the height I had once only dreamed of. Now, no one in this room would dare mock me as they did back then. No one would dare dismiss my work. No one would dare accuse me of plagiarism. Not anymore. When I stepped off the stage, I saw my mentor, his hair now peppered with gray, looking at me with a face full of pride and warmth. In that instant, my eyes filled with tears. I had truly done it. I walked closer and gave my mentor a gentle hug. Then I finally said the words I had buried deep in my heart. Thank you. That sentence should have been said long ago. Back then, when I went to him in desperation, my reputation was already ruined. The very first thing he said to me was, "If you didn't do it, why didn't you explain yourself?" In that instant, I felt like a balloon that had suddenly lost all its air. I completely collapsed. He understood then, and he felt sorry, not just for me, but for himself as well, because he too had once been through the same kind of storm, having been rained on himself. He chose to hold an umbrella over me. He told me, "One day, you'll be able to prove yourself openly and proudly." And I did. I really did it. Suddenly, a voice came from behind me, sharp and questioning. "Selena, is this how you've been living these past 3 years?" I turned around. It was Eric. He looked at me and my mentor, and gave a low, ironic laugh. He thought there was something between us, but I wasn't that weak, timid Selena anymore. "What do you mean by that?" I asked coldly. "How I've lived has nothing to do with you, does it? Or is it that, in your mind, someone like me could never have reached this point on my own?" My words came one after another, each sharper than the last. His face turned visibly red. After a long moment, his voice softened. "No, that's not what I meant." My mentor suddenly stood up, smiling politely. "Aw, Mr. Eric, such a promising young man. I didn't know you were acquainted with my student." Eric froze when he realized who was speaking. Immediately, his tone changed into one of respect. "Professor, you're back in the country? You're Selena's mentor?" My mentor gave me a knowing look and said lightly, "How's your mother lately?" "Aw, you're still too young. When I have time, I'll chat with her instead." I followed behind him, trying hard to hold back my laughter. He was clearly saying, "You're too young to speak to me as an equal." Sure enough, Eric's face darkened a shade deeper. Just then, Lisa stepped forward and hooked her arm through his. "Professor, Selena, you're back. As a friend, I'm so sorry you couldn't attend our engagement party, but you must come to our wedding." Eric's eyes stayed on me, watching my every reaction. If this were before, he knew I would have been devastated, unable to eat, unable to sleep for days. But now, "Miss Lisa, you must be joking," I said calmly. "We are not friends. I would never be friends with a plagiarist." Her expression froze instantly. Who are you calling a plagiarist? My mentor suddenly looked enlightened. Oh, so she's the one who stole your design? Then he pointed at her and began scolding. Really, young lady? How could someone your age do something so vicious? Aw, don't tell me it's because your family's rich and powerful that you think you can act without consequence? With people backing you up, no wonder. I remember thinking back then that the award-winning design looked so much like Selena's style. I've seen your work before, Miss Lisa. It's fine, I suppose. A bit niche. Not bad. But then suddenly your designs became grand and sophisticated. Now I see why. Lisa's face turned red with embarrassment. Professor, you can't just defend Selena just because she's your student. She did plagiarize me, that's a fact. I smiled. If you really want to bring up the past, I'm more than happy to revisit it. After all, everyone thought someone like me could never have reached this level, right? My mentor suddenly turned toward the nearby reporters. Oh, I've been abroad for so long. I'm not familiar with how things work here anymore. Am I offending someone powerful by saying this? Then he laughed carelessly. Lisa was on the verge of tears, grabbing Eric's arm anxiously. But this time, Eric was different. He didn't tell me to back down like he used to. Instead, in front of all the reporters, he said directly to Lisa, when you've done something wrong, you should apologize. If you want proof, I can give it to you. Of course he had proof. That ridiculous press conference 3 years ago. Wasn't it all his game to humiliate me? Chapter 10. But Lisa quickly regained her composure. Facing the crowd of reporters, she looked calm and unbothered. As for what happened back then, she said, anyone who wants to can go check the facts. But Selena, since you've been gone for so long, I'm actually curious, how did you manage to get close to such a big name like your mentor? My mentor curled his lip. Well, I suppose we should thank Miss Lisa for that. If it hadn't been for that plagiarism incident back then, I never would have discovered how talented our Selena really is. Lisa was struck speechless on the spot. My mentor even used the opportunity to promote me in front of the media. The confrontation caused quite a stir. The incident quickly went viral online. The same group of helpful netizens who had once cursed me immediately turned around and switched sides. I always thought something was off back then. The style difference was just too big. Then why didn't anyone say anything at the time? Why didn't she explain? Of course, there were still those who sided with Lisa. I'm saying, does someone who plagiarized others' work really deserve to be in a fashion show? She just found herself a so-called mentor, probably used him to climb up the ladder. Hey, that's uncalled for. Can't you see Selena's level of skill now? My mentor took me to meet Eric's mother. Although the situation had been ugly before, I had to admit, she had helped me quite a lot. Eric's mother hadn't changed a bit. If anything, she looked younger. The older I get, the more I understand that some of her ideas were actually right. After the gathering ended, she and I stayed to talk privately. Between the lines, she was testing whether I still had any intention of getting back together with Eric. Of course I didn't, she said. Good, that's how it should be. He's obsessed now. Once he finally lets go of you, he'll be able to settle down and marry the person I've arranged for him. I stared at her. It's been 3 years, and he still hasn't married Lisa. How can you be so sure he'll follow the path you planned? Because the person I want him to marry was never Lisa. She said matter-of-factly. Her family is fine, but Lisa herself isn't. In our family, one must have a proper name and reputation. In that instant, I understood everything. Everything that had happened between us had been within her calculations all along. In a way, she and I had reached a sort of unspoken agreement. But even so, she didn't seem to understand her son as well as she thought she did. Chapter 11. Experts have already confirmed that those designs were mine. Lisa was the real plagiarist all along. Her act of the thief crying "Stop thief" sparked an uproar of condemnation online. At first, her powerful family still tried to defend her, but as more and more designers came forward, exposing plagiarism scandals tied to her family's brand, they finally fell silent. It turned out, I wasn't the only one they had wronged. It wasn't that others hadn't tried to defend themselves. They simply couldn't. Capital controls everything. Some news only gets published if they allow it. But the number of people speaking up kept growing. Many of my old colleagues in the industry testified for me, confirming that those design drafts were indeed mine. Lisa's family couldn't withstand the backlash. To protect the company, they had no choice but to abandon Lisa, their own daughter. After all, there were plenty of others in that family. Cut one down, and another would immediately grow to replace her. Their family took a heavy blow, facing multiple lawsuits, losing numerous collaborations. Their influence greatly diminished. Lisa was left with a hollow position at the company, a title with no real power. As for her career as a designer, that dream was over. Even at home, she wasn't favored anymore, and her reputation had completely collapsed. Sooner or later, her family would marry her off to someone far beneath Eric. Eric, meanwhile, began acting irrationally. Using his official account, he publicly admitted that the reason he had testified for Lisa back then was simply because he had been angry with me. He confessed that while he was still my boyfriend, he had already gotten engaged to Lisa. He said his statement now was an apology to me. After that, he wouldn't stop pestering me. He waited outside my building all night, refusing to leave. He changed phone number after phone number, sending endless messages begging forgiveness, saying he missed me. I just found it disgusting. I didn't understand how the Eric from back then had turned into this person now. His behavior was bringing shame upon his entire family. Eric's mother had him taken home by force. See? I had said it before. She didn't really know her son at all. After everything was settled, my mentor told me to go back with him. I shook my head. I asked him to go ahead first. The past few days had been too rushed, and I still hadn't gone to visit my parents' graves. They were buried together. Thinking about it always makes me ache inside. They worked hard their entire lives, and never got to enjoy a single day of peace. Now that I'm grown, capable, and successful, I'm suddenly overwhelmed by a deep sense of helplessness. If I could do it all over again, I would never let my father work as a driver for Eric's family. I would never fall in love with Eric. The three of us could have just lived a simple, ordinary life together. But now, I'm all alone. Every time my mentor's young daughter asks me, "Where are your mom and dad?" I can't say a single word. I lie to myself. As long as I don't say it out loud, I can still pretend I'm a child who has parents. It's just that they're far away overseas, and I can't see them for now. Chapter 12. Because someone had been taking care of it. Even though I hadn't come for 3 years, the grave was still clean. I sat there until the sun went down. When I turned around, I saw Eric. He was holding a bunch of chrysanthemums, wearing a black coat. The way he walked toward me was no different from when he was 7 years old. Looking at him now, he just seemed like an ordinary stranger. He first placed the flowers down, then said a few polite, formal words, empty words that meant nothing. Finally, he looked at me. "Selena, I was wrong before. Can you forgive me? All these years, I've never forgotten you. Lisa was just someone arranged by my family. I was never going to marry her. It was my fault. I shouldn't have suppressed you or let you suffer so much back then. I thought you gave up on me, just to study with your teacher." I was furious. I didn't understand. These 3 years, I've been looking for you. But, Selena, he rambled on, incoherent and pitiful. I couldn't help but laugh. "Eric, do you not know how to take a plane? Or did you lose your sense of direction?" I never hid where I was. 3 years, more than 1,000 days and nights, and you never came to find me once. I just want to ask you one question. If your mother never agreed to our marriage, would you give up everything you have now for me? He fell silent. Of course, he wouldn't. How could he ever? "Selena, we can figure out something better. You don't have to think so extremely. And now, you're successful. My mother will definitely." I interrupted him with a laugh. "Eric, I knew you'd say that. The truth is, there was never a right choice to make. If you gave everything up for me, I'd think you were reckless and foolish. But if you didn't give it up, then our best ending would still be not being together. Our relationship was like a wrong equation, no matter how you calculated it. There was no right answer, so why keep solving it at all? Now, in my 30s, I finally understand how foolish my choices were at 20. Selena, I can give you something better, he said quickly. With my family behind you, everything will go smoothly for you. If you need mentors, I can introduce you to the most famous ones. Enough. Eric. I looked at him with contempt. Don't you realize how offensive you sound right now? Do you know that on the day you and Lisa held that press conference to accuse me of plagiarism, my mother died? His face went pale. Selena. I didn't know. It doesn't matter anymore. It's all in the past. If it were back then, when I still loved you, I could have endured any humiliation, as long as it eased your burden. I would have done anything, but now, Eric, I don't love you anymore. I don't even hate you, and as long as I don't care, everything you do becomes ridiculous. Don't you understand that yet? I laughed again. How ridiculous. If you can say all this now, why did you have to hurt me back then? I didn't waste another word. I stood up and walked away without looking back. If you ask whether I regret it, not really. After all, it was my own choice. But there is some pity. The man who once seemed so good had become someone like this in the end. Maybe we both changed. The dusk sky was painted crimson by a magnificent sunset, and that same light colored my back as I walked away. There was nothing left here worth holding on to. My future would only get better. Chapter 13, Eric's Side Story. Since I was little, my mother taught me to be independent, to expand the family business and make it stronger. I was the only child, so the weight on my shoulders was heavy. Maybe that's why I never had any real friends. My life was boring. No one wanted to play with me. Selena was the exception. She was the driver's daughter. But she was like me in one way. She had no friends either. I begged my mother to let her accompany me while I studied. She didn't need to study anything. Just sit beside me. Every time I saw her secretly munching on snacks, trying not to make too much noise, I found it so amusing. I would sit there, reading books far beyond my age, while she read comic books. At first, she would hold back her laughter, afraid of being scolded, but as we grew closer, she began laughing freely, without restraint. Sometimes she'd even call me over to read with her. She loved to eat, too, so I'd secretly save snacks for her. The things I studied were tedious and dry, but she was my only comfort, until college came, when her father passed away. I felt deeply guilty, because that day, I was the one who asked him to pick me up, but I didn't dare tell her. I was terrified that my one and only Selena would leave me forever if she knew. After a long period apart, I finally understood my own heart, so I thought, why not keep Selena by my side forever? I truly, genuinely missed her. Before saying those words aloud, I had rehearsed them countless times in my mind, even though I knew my mother would never approve. I believed I could defy her, and so, I convinced myself that I had successfully won Selena over. Those few years were the happiest of my life. For the first time, I felt the warmth of family. I learned that family doesn't have to be cold and distant. I always liked holding her, feeling her real and close in my arms. But when the time came for marriage, I grew anxious, and more than anxious, I was afraid. I was afraid of losing Selena. I could give up anyone or anything, except her, but I didn't have the courage to give up everything I already had. If I threw it all away, would I have the strength to start over? And if I couldn't give Selena the life she deserved, what then? Without realizing it, I wronged her again and again, especially that time with Lisa's plagiarism. When I finally understood what had happened, I realized it had all been a setup, a trap designed by my mother and Lisa, meant to drive Selena out of the fashion world. It was the one thing Selena was most proud of. I knew how much it hurt her, but why couldn't she understand me? If she could just swallow her pride this one time. Once we were married, she'd be part of my family, and then I'd have every reason to defend her. When she said she wanted to break up, I was completely unprepared. I always thought She couldn't live without me. So when I couldn't reach her, I panicked. That's why I held that press conference, to draw her out. But I never imagined she would simply walk away. She didn't just leave the industry, she left me too. My mother said she hadn't hesitated for even a second. I was furious, but as time went on, I realized I missed her desperately. It wasn't that she couldn't live without me. It was me. I couldn't live without her. Still, I was trapped for 3 whole years. My power within the company weakened, and fear kept me from seeing her again, afraid the ending would be the same as before. But when I finally saw her again, after 3 years, it was clear everything was over. At her father's grave, she spoke to me calmly, and I knew it was too late. Selena had truly let me go. After Lisa's family went bankrupt, my mother arranged another engagement for me. This time, I swore I wouldn't meet her. Without Selena, nothing seemed to matter anymore.